The jungle was alive with eerie sounds, strange clicks, distant roars, and the steady drip of moisture from thick leaves overhead. Mist curled like ghostly fingers through the undergrowth, swallowing shapes whole. Zarina moved with silent grace, each step calculated and deliberate. Her bioluminescent eyes pierced through the gloom, glowing faint blue against the dark green of the alien forest. Her entire being was focused on one target, the human who dared trespass too close to the nest of the apex predator. She was no stranger to danger. Raised in the harsh wilderness of Lyriketh, Zarina had survived battles that would have broken lesser warriors. She had seen humans before, violent, reckless, destroying entire ecosystems with their technology and greed. None of those humans had earned her trust, not even close. Now, stalking through the thick ferns, she spotted him. The human was oddly still, almost fragile-looking against the towering flora. His skin was pale, his clothes simple, and yet something about him didn't scream aggression like the others. But that didn't stop the warning bells in her mind. He was dangerously close, too close to the den. The apex predator's young were nearby, and Zarina's duty was clear: protect at all costs. Her plasma rifle hummed softly in her hands as she stepped out from the shadows. The human didn't notice at first. She crouched low, aiming carefully. "Step away," she commanded in the harsh tongue of her people, her voice cold and hard. The human finally turned, eyes wide, alarm flashing across his face. He raised his hands, palms out in a universal gesture of peace, though Zarina had no reason to trust it. Suddenly, from deeper in the mist, a massive shape loomed, the apex predator itself. Towering, muscular, its scales shimmered with a deep iridescent sheen. Its yellow eyes locked onto the human. Zarina's breath hitched. The beast was known for its deadly precision, merciless defense of its young. Her finger tightened on the trigger. The instinct to protect was primal, unstoppable. But then, something unexpected happened. The predator moved forward, slowly, deliberately, its gaze unwavering but calm. Instead of attacking, it lowered its massive head, nudging the human gently with its snout. The human didn't flinch. He extended a trembling hand and touched the creature's muzzle. There was no fear in his eyes, only reverence and understanding. Zarina's heart pounded in confusion. Her finger twitched, hesitating on the trigger. Could this human be different? She blinked, the scene playing over in her mind. The predator's acceptance shattered everything she believed about humans. Her thoughts raced. Why was the predator allowing him near its young? Was the human some kind of friend to the beast? Or was this some trick? Before she could react, the human turned toward her, his voice soft but steady. "I mean no harm," he said in broken Lyriketh, words clipped but sincere. Zarina narrowed her eyes. Few humans bothered to learn her language. "Why are you here?" she demanded, voice low but tinged with suspicion. "I study, protect, learn," he replied, choosing simple words. His calmness was disarming, but Zarina's experience screamed caution. Years of betrayal and loss made trust difficult. She lowered her rifle slightly but kept her guard. "I am Zarina," she said, "protector of the young. You trespass." "I am Callum," he said, voice steady despite the tension. No threat. She studied him, his worn jacket, the strange devices hanging from his belt, his steady gaze. There was something about him, a quiet strength beneath the human fragility. A flicker of doubt crept into her mind. Zarina's past was a tapestry of violence. Humans had ravaged her homeworld, enslaved her people, shattered her family. Trust was a luxury she could not afford. Yet, here stood one who did not match the nightmare of her memories. Her gaze flicked to the predator again. It watched silently, alert but unmoving. "Why does it accept you?" she asked, suspicion mixing with curiosity. Callum's eyes softened as he glanced toward the massive creature. "It knows I respect the balance," he said. "I do not hunt. I do not conquer." His words were simple but carried weight. Zarina felt a strange pull, an unfamiliar flicker of hope. Many humans kill without thought, she said harshly. You are alone. I choose to be, Callum replied. To learn, to protect. The forest around them was alive with tension. Every rustle could mean danger. Every moment stretched like a taut wire. Zorina's mind raced. Could this fragile human really be trusted? Or was she setting herself up for a trap? Before she could decide, a sudden roar shattered the moment. From the shadows, a group of hostile hunters appeared. Human mercenaries, armed and aggressive, moving quickly toward the nest. Enemies, Zorina hissed, raising her rifle again. Callum's eyes sharpened. Without hesitation, he stepped between Zorina and the attackers. I will not let you harm them, he declared. The mercenaries sneered, weapons raised. In that split second, Zorina saw something new. The human, though small and seemingly vulnerable, moved with a calm certainty that few warriors possessed. The apex predator, sensing the threat, let out a deafening roar and charged forward, the mercenaries scattering in terror. Zorina and Callum exchanged a quick glance. Together? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. Callum nodded. In that instant, a fragile alliance was born. One forged not from trust, but necessity. As the mercenaries fled, Zorina kept her eyes on Callum, noticing something strange. On his wrist was a glowing mark, an insignia unlike any she had seen, pulsed softly, as if alive. What is that? She demanded. Callum hesitated, then said quietly, a gift and a secret. Her curiosity piqued despite herself. If this human held secrets, perhaps there was more to him than she thought. The jungle grew silent again, but the air between them crackled with unspoken questions. Zorina lowered her rifle, but the wariness remained. Stay close, she said, voice firm. We survive together. Callum gave a small, grateful smile. Neither knew what dangers awaited, but for now, their fates were intertwined. And somewhere deep within, Zorina felt the first stirring of trust. The night deepened as they moved cautiously through the jungle, shadows wrapping around them like dark silk. Zorina's senses were razor-sharp, every whisper of wind, every distant snap of a twig alerting her to possible threats. Callum followed quietly, his breathing steady, hands empty but ready. She stole glances at him, trying to piece together the puzzle of this human who had so easily tamed the apex predator. How did you earn its trust? She asked, breaking the silence. Callum looked thoughtful. I think it knows fear and respect. I never raised a weapon at it. I stayed calm. Zorina frowned. In her culture, strength often came from dominance, from showing power. But maybe this was something different. Your ways are strange, she murmured. And yours, he replied with a faint smile. There was a momentary softness in their exchange, fragile as the mist. Zorina's thoughts drifted back to her people. Warriors bound by tradition, suspicious of outsiders, especially humans. Yet this one was different. As dawn neared, the forest began to stir with new sounds. Calls of birds, the rustle of small creatures waking. Zorina stopped at a clearing, the rising sun filtering through the canopy, painting the world golden. She turned to Callum. You will come with me to the clan. There are questions only your answers can explain. He nodded, eyes calm but alert. Together, they stepped into the light, two beings from different worlds bound by fate and the fragile thread of trust. The first light of dawn barely warmed the dense jungle as Zorina and Callum made their cautious way toward her clan's settlement. The air was thick with humidity, filled with the scent of damp earth and exotic blooms that glowed faintly in the early morning. Their footsteps were muffled by layers of moss and fallen leaves, but every crack of a twig made them freeze, alert for predators or enemies. Zorina glanced sideways at Callum, her expression a mixture of suspicion and reluctant curiosity. The human moved with careful deliberation, his eyes scanning their surroundings as if reading the jungle's silent language. Despite the dangers they had already faced, he showed no sign of panic. It unsettled her. The cultural gap between them was wider than the ravine that split the western ridge. Where Zorina's people communicated in subtle glances, nuanced body language, and telepathic pulses. Callum spoke loudly and clearly, his words ringing out like a foreign melody. His customs, his technology, his very presence was an enigma. "Why do you not carry a weapon?" Zarina finally asked, breaking the silence that had stretched for miles. Callum smiled faintly. "I do not hunt to kill. I study, observe. Weapons can be a last resort." His answer was foreign to her, born of a worldview where power was often displayed through dominance and combat prowess. Yet, there was something in his calm that made her wonder if strength came in other forms. Zarina shifted her grip on the plasma rifle slung over her shoulder, her sharp eyes scanning the trees. "Your people, humans, are known to be ruthless hunters. Why should I believe you are different?" Callum's gaze darkened with something she recognized as guilt. "Not all of us are. Some of us want peace. But I cannot speak for all." She nodded slowly, understanding but unwilling to fully trust. In her experience, words were easy to say, but actions carried weight. As they drew nearer to the settlement, the sounds of the clan emerged. A mixture of voices, clashing metal, and the hum of energy shields. Zarina's posture stiffened. Here, she was a warrior, a protector, someone with authority. But Callum was a stranger, an alien among aliens, and she knew the others would not welcome him easily. When they arrived, the clan gathered around instantly, eyes flashing with suspicion and hostility. Elder Thuruk, the grizzled leader with battle scars crisscrossing his leathery face, stepped forward. "Zarina," he barked, voice rough like gravel. "Who is this human? Why bring him to our home?" Zarina held her head high. "His presence is a mystery, but the apex predator accepted him. That alone demands our attention." The crowd murmured uneasily. "Trust the predator?" One warrior scoffed. "It is a beast, not a judge." Callum stepped forward cautiously. "I mean no harm. I seek understanding." Elder Thuruk's eyes narrowed. "Understanding? From a species that has destroyed worlds." Zarina noticed Callum flinch at the harsh words but said nothing. The tension in the air thickened until a sudden alarm shattered the moment. Scouts rushed in, shouting frantic warnings. A group of unknown invaders was approaching, armed and hostile. "Prepare yourselves," Thuruk ordered. Zarina's instincts kicked into high gear. She glanced at Callum, whose eyes hardened with resolve. "We must work together," she said. "This threat could destroy us all." Reluctantly, the clan agreed, and plans were set in motion. Over the next hours, Zarina and Callum found themselves thrown into close quarters, forced to cooperate despite their differences. They mapped out defensive positions, shared knowledge of terrain, and coordinated patrols. Yet, cultural misunderstandings quickly bubbled to the surface. During a strategy meeting, Callum suggested using a non-lethal sonic device to incapacitate the invaders. Zarina raised an eyebrow. "You trust such fragile tools to stop enemies who kill without mercy?" "It is better than needless bloodshed," Callum replied earnestly. One of the younger warriors snorted. "Mercy is for the weak. We fight to survive." Zarina felt torn between her clan's hardened mindset and the possibility of a different way. Later, while preparing supplies, Callum carefully cleaned a small mechanical device, explaining its purpose to Zarina. "It detects energy signatures, helps us know where enemies hide." Zarina studied the gadget with fascination. "Your technology is advanced, but unreliable. We rely on instinct." Callum shrugged. "Instinct can be wrong. Tools can help." A small smile tugged at Zarina's lips. Despite their arguments, there was respect growing between them. As the threat loomed closer, the two began to share more personal stories. Callum spoke of Earth's diverse peoples, the struggles to find harmony among differences. Zarina revealed scars beneath her armor, reminders of battles lost and loved ones taken. One evening, beneath a sky strewn with unfamiliar stars, Callum found Zarina staring into the fire, silent. "What troubles you?" he asked softly. She hesitated before speaking. "Trust is earned through sacrifice. Words alone are empty." Callum nodded. "Then let me earn it." Their shared vulnerability bridged the gap between alien and human, soldier and scholar. But danger was never far. During a nighttime patrol, the invaders struck swiftly, testing the clan's defenses. In the chaos, Zarina found herself separated, wounded and vulnerable. Callum fought fiercely to reach her, using every ounce of knowledge and skill. When he finally did, he shielded her from an enemy's blow, taking a wound himself. Zarina's breath caught, a new wave of emotions crashing inside her. Gratitude, fear, and something deeper. As they retreated to safety, she looked at Callum with fresh eyes. "You risked yourself for me," she whispered. "Because I trust you," he replied. Their alliance had shifted, no longer a simple truce but the beginnings of something more profound. Yet, as they returned to the clan, the glowing mark on Callum's wrist pulsed faintly, a reminder that secrets still lingered beneath the surface. And the invaders' assault was only the beginning. Zarina knew their world was about to change forever. Days passed in a tense rhythm, each one a slow beat in the pulse of a fragile alliance. The jungle around the settlement seemed to hold its breath, as if it, too, awaited what was to come. Zarina and Callum moved through the camp with cautious familiarity, their shared experiences carving out a space between them where mistrust began to erode. But it was not a simple path. Every step forward was shadowed by uncertainty, both within and outside. The invaders had not retreated. Instead, they had dug in, probing the clan's defenses with relentless persistence. Their motives remained unclear, their origin a mystery that only deepened the unease. Zarina and Callum found themselves thrown together again and again, their skills complementing one another despite the worlds that separated them. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the canopy, Zarina sat beside the flickering fire, her thoughts a storm of duty, fear, and something unfamiliar, hope. Callum approached quietly, holding a small pouch of herbs native to his world. "I thought this might help with your wound," he said softly, kneeling beside her. She looked up, meeting his steady gaze. "You continue to surprise me, human." Callum smiled, the tension of recent battles momentarily fading. "I suppose you do the same." There was a pause, charged with unspoken words. The air between them seemed to hum with a fragile electricity. Zarina's hand, hesitant at first, reached out to touch his. The roughness of his skin was foreign but comforting, a bridge over the chasm of their differences. "Trust is fragile," she murmured. "Easier to break than to build." "Then let's build it together," Callum replied. Their fingers intertwined, a simple gesture carrying the weight of promises yet unspoken. The days that followed brought a gradual unfolding of barriers, both cultural and personal. Zarina introduced Callum to the sacred bonding rituals of her clan, ancient ceremonies that honored strength, loyalty, and unity. Callum, in turn, shared stories of human traditions, of trust forged in vulnerability, of love as both shield and sword. Their moments were punctuated by laughter, shared frustrations, and quiet confessions beneath the alien stars. The walls they had built around their hearts began to crumble, yet the world around them remained unforgiving. One afternoon, a scout returned with urgent news. The invaders were launching a coordinated assault, aiming to crush the clan once and for all. The camp erupted into action, warriors arming themselves, strategists shouting commands. Amid the chaos, Zarina sought Callum, finding him near the armory, preparing weapons with an intensity that mirrored her own. "We fight not just for survival, but for the future of our people," she said, her voice steady despite the storm around them. Callum nodded. "And for the bond we've forged, I will stand by your side." As they moved toward the front lines, a sudden explosion rocked the clearing, throwing debris into the air. Zarina caught Callum's arm, pulling him to cover. "Stay close," she commanded, her eyes fierce. The battle was fierce, a blur of flashing blades, energy blasts, and primal roars. Zarina fought with the ferocity of a warrior born, each strike precise and deadly. Callum's tactics were unconventional, his movements unpredictable, confusing their enemies and turning the tide. At one point, they found themselves back to back, surrounded by hostile forces. Breathing heavily, Zarina locked eyes with Callum. "Ready?" she asked. "Always." Together, they launched into a synchronized assault, a dance of destruction and survival. When the dust settled, they stood victorious but battered. In the silence that followed, Zarina reached out, her hand resting against Callum's cheek. "You are no longer just a human," she said quietly. "You are part of this clan, part of me." Callum's eyes shone with emotion. "And you have shown me a world I never knew existed." As the camp tended to the wounded and mourned the fallen, an unspoken question lingered. What would come next? The bond between Zarina and Callum had grown unbreakable, yet the forces that threatened them were far from defeated. Under the light of the moons, they stood together, ready to face whatever trials awaited. Not as alien and human, but as partners united by trust, sacrifice, and something more profound than either had dared hope. The night before the final assault was thick with a heavy silence that pressed down on the settlement. Fires flickered low, casting long shadows across the faces of the weary warriors. Zarina and Callum sat side by side, the glow from the embers painting their skin in shades of orange and gold. Around them, preparations were underway. Weapons were checked, strategies rehearsed, alliances reaffirmed. Zarina's mind churned with the weight of what was to come. The invaders were ruthless, their hunger for domination unmatched. But this fight was more than survival. It was a battle for the fragile hope that had blossomed between her and Callum, and for the future of their combined worlds. Callum reached out, his fingers brushing her hand gently. "Whatever happens, know that I am with you." Her eyes softened, gratitude and something deeper shining through. "We fight as one." At dawn, the enemy surged forward, a dark wave crashing against the fortress of the clan. The battle erupted with thunderous fury. Screams, clashes, and the hum of energy weapons filled the air. Zarina moved through the chaos like a tempest, every strike precise, every motion a blend of grace and lethal force. Callum was at her side, his human ingenuity turning the tide with unexpected tactics and fierce determination. As the battle reached its zenith, Zarina spotted the enemy commander, a towering figure clad in heavy armor, eyes burning with cold fury. The two locked gazes, an unspoken challenge sparking between them. Zarina charged, meeting his assault with a clash of blades. The fight was brutal, each blow a test of will and skill. But just as the enemy commander raised his weapon for a killing strike, Callum intervened, launching a projectile that struck the armor's weak point, shattering it and giving Zarina the opening she needed. With a final, decisive strike, she ended the battle. Victory came at a steep cost. The settlement lay scarred, the air heavy with loss. Among the wounded was Callum, his breath shallow, pain etched across his face. Zarina cradled him, tears mingling with the dirt on her skin. "You saved me," she whispered, voice trembling. "And you saved me," he replied, squeezing her hand weakly. In the quiet aftermath, the clan gathered around them, witnessing the bond forged through fire and sacrifice. Elder Thuruk stepped forward, his gruff voice softened by respect. "You are no longer an outsider," he declared. "You are one of us." Zarina and Callum shared a look, the unspoken promise of a future together shining between them. Days later, under the blooming trees of the settlement, a ceremony was held, a union of two souls from different worlds. As they exchanged vows, the jungle seemed to hold its breath, celebrating a love born of trust, hardship, and hope. Their journey had been perilous, marked by battles both external and within. But through it all, they had found something rare and precious, a partnership that transcended species, culture, and fear. As they stood hand in hand, gazing toward a horizon painted with possibility, Zarina knew their story was only beginning. Together, they would face whatever challenges the future held, united, unbroken, and unstoppable.